Perfect. Let's then talk about, well, I suppose a couple of games that I've been putting a lot of time into, one of which I'm going to talk at length about now. It's a game I got a code for. It came out today. They're recording on the 12th, called Caravan Sand Witch.
Oh yeah, I saw it came out. I was like, oh, I was wondering
Yeah.
if Ben knew. And he does.
I played the demo of it a few
Yes.
weeks back, maybe.
Yes, and I think you definitely spoke about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the demo, I think maybe about an hour or something like that, kind of sold me enough on understanding that whilst it's kind of being pushed as a bit of an semi-open world style kind of game, actually it's a much more curated experience. But ultimately, Caravan Sand Witch is a journey, right? A journey for the player and a journey for the character. That's
Oh, I thought he was talking about the PlayStation game.
Not the PlayStation exclusive journey. It's kind of, it is. I don't know whether the phrase semi-open world comes from. It's sort of something that's been used in their marketing, but it is kind of like an open world game. Right? You can go anywhere on the map. I think pretty much as soon as you unlock getting out of the first little tutorial kind of area. But ultimately, it's an adventure game, and it's a very kind of chilled exploration game. It reminds me so much of Sable, that you're traveling around the world on a mode of transport, and ultimately what you're doing is helping people out with their issues and their problems, whilst having a bit of a quest that you're trying to do yourself. Sable was very much, the quest was help people. Caravan Sand Witch is much more, there's a problem and I need to go and figure out why this has happened, or go and sort of investigate into it. And whilst I'm here, I can do these other kind of elements. But it's very much sort of like, you want to be helping kind of people. You want to be experiencing it, because that's where the narrative and where the a lot of the exposition for the world and stuff comes from. That's the interesting part of this game, right? That the world that they've kind of built, and the lore. We were talking earlier about sort of lore in kind of games, and it's a very interesting kind of almost post-apocalyptic kind of world. It's not necessarily post-apocalyptic. It's actually more of a, it's a random planet a corporation has been into and essentially decimated for resources. So the small kind of settlements that are on this place have barely anyone in them anymore. Resources are running very thin. There's lots of issues that are kind of happening. And so a lot of your quests are, hey, can you try and talk to these people about trading us for some things? Or you go and see if there is a way for us to be able to improve this kind of thing. And the main mechanic around this is the caravan itself. It's not really a caravan. It's a van.
It's a sandwich.
Yeah. Well, so the name of the game is very much kind of what's going on within it. So you're in a van. It's like it's not even quite like a motorhome, right? It's not a caravan as such. It's a van, and the gameplay loop is that you upgrade a tool for the van. So the first one is like a scanning machine, and you can scan and they're like, oh cool, there's resources over there, or there's something that I have to go and do over here. The next one is it the next one? But there's like a grapple hook as well. So suddenly you can like fling it out to like pull open doors and stuff that you can then drive through, or go into spaces that you can explore and stuff. There's then that becomes like powered later on. So there's lots of different upgrades. And the game sets itself out in chapters, and basically the next upgrade sets you into the next chapter of the game. And whilst that doesn't necessarily unlock different areas, what it does is it moves time forward, so it puts characters in different places.
Oh, okay.
And so if there's a bunch of additional quests that characters have asked you to do, and it very much like pops up, it's like, this is the end of this chapter. Do you want to do? You haven't done these things.
That's really nice.
That's
in
good.
the next chapter, do you want to go and do them? And you can be like, absolutely. I don't want to make this thing now. I'm going to go off and do these extra things, because
I like
that's
that.
where the joy of this game is. The joy of this game is in, as it was with Sable, getting the lore of the world and understanding what's happened and experiencing what the characters are experiencing. And it's very well written. It's from a French studio. I think they're called Plain Toast, the studio.
Toast
And
sandwich. I like
yeah,
these French
yes.
people.
Well, the sandwich comes from like an in-game character, let's say.
The Earl of
who's-
Sandwich.
Yeah, yes. Instead of the Navy world, he's still there. But it's kind of one where I think they've paced this game incredibly well, and they've made it intriguing enough, and intriguing narratively, intriguing in the world, that you want to explore. So you're walking around, or I'm walking around with Sage, kind of going, I want to drive the caravan to this place and then just get out and do a little bit of the kind of easy exploration and platforming kind of around this sort of thing, and go and get the resources that I need to upgrade to the next thing for the caravan. But also being like, oh shit, I've just found this, like, and there's a bunch of collectibles in there as well, because it's an open world game. But the collectibles are ultimately a pillow on the ground, which, like in Assassin's Creed, you get to the top of the tower and it does like a 360. This, you sit on the pillow and it doesn't necessarily do a 360, but it does some very cinematic kind of panning shots of the environment. So a lot of these pillows are in high sort of places. So it's actually like, do this vertical kind of platforming element, get up, and your reward is this lovely vista across the world. Or there's a radio up there, and there's just a bunch of additional songs that you just only get if you're playing them on this radio. And as soon as you move away, so there's a proximity on the radio. So as soon as you move away from it,
Oh, interesting.
that's really
listen to
cool.
it anymore. So you could just take the time to sit and listen to the song.
What kind of music is it?
It's a mix.
Range or?
Right? It's a bit of a mix of stuff. There's a little bit of kind of more chilled sort of, a bunch of it's in French as well, sort of the lyrics.
Nice.
So it's very much kind of, some of it was a bit more chilled, some of it was a bit more kind of upbeat, and a bit more kind of, not like dancey or anything like that, but it kind of lent a little bit more into being a little bit more like frenetic and a little bit sort of more upbeat kind of thing. So I don't know if there's
I
any
just want
correlation.
European house music from like the 90s. Just
It's absolutely. Well, you go there and it's just like, oh, this like decimated world. There's only like 20 people in this whole area, and then it's just like womp, 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 womp.
Yeah.
Not quite like that. But I don't know whether
Ace of base.
I don't know if the songs have been like specifically chosen for areas and things like that.
Yeah.
But everything in this game feels very well placed, let's say. So the areas kind of all expand that a little bit. You know, you drive out of the first kind of town, and it's a few corridors, and then suddenly you open into this expanse of like desert. And like, oh, that's cool. Like, I can go to here. There's a building at the edge of the desert. Or I can go over here. It's another sort of place at the edge of the desert. Or actually, there's this lush sort of forest over here. Let's go and explore what's kind of down there. And the map and things will always kind of push you towards where these kind of quests or these storylines and things are as well. So whilst it's kind of open world, it is still pushing you to certain sort of areas and places to experience everything that the game wants you to experience. But it allows you to just explore. So there's a bunch of places I kind of just ran around and explored that I could only progress them so far because I didn't have the pool unlocked for the caravan yet to fully open up what I needed to kind of do in that area.
Semi-open world, as he said.
Semi-open world, yes, yeah. And it's a beautiful game. Like, it's got this lovely kind of almost sort of comic book sort of look on it. It's vibrant enough that you're kind of, it's a bit of a desert, and it's lots of beige and brown and greys of these industrial corporate buildings and factories. But the character's got red hair. She's in a big sort of turquoise kind of top and stuff. A lot of the characters are full of color, and that's where like the pop comes. The caravan is a big yellow fucking box you're driving around in, you know. Like, there's a lot of vibrancy even in these kind of quite toneless kind of areas. And I think again, it's done in a way to be like, cool, the focus wants to be here, right? We're using color to put the focus on the character and what they're doing and moving around the spaces and stuff. I think it's just very, very well thought through in terms of, as I said earlier, pacing, but also how they're drawing your eye to certain places in this, because it's not a big map, but they use it well. They bounce you around it that little bit. But I really like this game, but there are a couple of problems that I think I haven't been to it. It came out today. I haven't played it today, so I don't know if there's a day one patch. I imagine there is, but there's a couple of problems with the build that I was playing in the much later stages of the game. There's no voiceovers in this, so it's all on-screen text, and the standard kind of like noise when someone is kind of talking. All audio cut out for me in the last chapter. Right. A couple of different points. Again, something that can be fixed, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite all audio. There was just like the background ambient noise, so you could hear the wind suddenly. But I was driving the van. There's no noise for the engine. There was no noise for pulling a door off of the hinges, which they normally would be. And secondly, I couldn't finish every storyline because one storyline puts a character in different places to go and visit through those different chapters. And so in the last chapter, that character is in a different place. It's the last point you need to go and speak to them about. But the last chapter doesn't let me get out of the caravan. The chapter starts,
right,
and I have to do the set path that the chapter wants me to do, which takes me to the end of the game. So there was no opportunity. So I drove over to the character, tried to get out. It's like, no, you can't do that.
Wild.
I'm not going to get to go back and experience like just this one final storyline, which is great for the exposition of the world, because it, runs through almost all of the chapters, giving you information, giving you kind of why the corporation is here, what they were doing. You're uncovering kind of the story, and it's just that little bit frustrating.
Do you think that's a pre-release thing?
I think it must be a pre-release thing, right? That must have been identified to be rolled, so actually that character's story starts a chapter earlier, and so then their final part of that quest is in the penultimate kind of chapter, potentially. I would hope so, but it ties in that character's. It must be a hard thing to do because that character's story actually ties into why you're visiting some of these places anyway. So it's like you've got to go to this place, and that character happens to be there, so you're exploring this place anyway. So I don't know whether it would have to be a massive rework, to do that or not, or they just need to give you the ability to get out of the van.
Right.
But that could just destroy the whole game.
It could absolutely. And as with a lot of games, it also as the only final sticking point for this is it also has the issue that hundreds and hundreds of video games have faced, in that you are kind of in this very chill, semi-open world environment. Take it at your own pace, explore where you want, but the story is like, hello, there's a time-sensitive thing happening. So it's not time-sensitive. Really. There's no like timer counting down. It's more like, I need to do this as quickly as possible. There's an urgency to what I want to do. And then a character's like, oh, just hang out here for like 2 days. And you're like, all right.
That's every game.
That's every that's what he's saying. But it's just bad.
I thought you said that's like no other game.
No, it's like every game.
Oh, right, I misheard you. Right,
No,
if you as soon as you take away the railroading pacing, but keep the same style of writing, you will have this problem.
Yeah, Fate of the Universe is, well, it's on the brink, but can you just clear these rats out?
And what really sucks is, like, you could add a thing where if you dilly-dally, someone says, what took you so long? or just some acknowledgement.
Sure.
Like, and even though it still doesn't make sense, because like again, if you think about the character, why would they fucking go clear the rats out of a basement for like 3 quarts of sugar, or whatever the fuck the game wants you to do, when like they have the key to destroying the evil bad guy, right?
Yes, there should be like not a complete troll game where you can't finish the game because you
fucked around too much.
Yeah. There should be like, oh, this many people died in the
Hang another one.
It's actually the game is called FAFO. You fuck around and find out. You like do all this stuff the games want you to do, and it's like
in the end of the universe,
fucking universe is gone, motherfuckers. There's armies of demons. Why didn't you go right away with the fucking solution?
Yeah.
Also,
or the softer version is like, okay, 1 billion people died in the world in the war, but if you hurried up, only 100 million died.
And it also ties in with that game that you can only play once, so you can never replay it again. Like that is your choice. You fucked it.
But and also like
live with that. Like,
you didn't care about humanity enough.
Instead of your like over encumbrance being like you walk at like 10% your speed, like they do in like Bethesda type games, it's like slightly slower, so you don't immediately notice, but you've been fucking around holding all the like random shit that the game's just taking you 10-15% longer, but you don't notice.
Imagine if like 3 billion people died because you were playing Gwent.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, you've got to love how it's like a frozen moment in time, right? For these sorts of things. Like I sit on my phone and I play Marvel Snap, and I play it. It's a 2-minute kind of game, so you can kind of be like, cool. In the world of The Witcher, you're playing a game of Gwent, and it's 2 minutes out of Geralt's life to be able to sort of play this. But if you lose, and then you just get to play the character again, it's the same 2 minutes. Over and over and over and over, repeating, rather than the character turning around like, "You're really shit at this. We've played like 10 times now. We've been here for 4 days. Just give up, mate. Fuck off." Like,
the best would be like you do that, and then like after like the 5th game you lose, the guy's like, "No, I'm not gonna play you again. You're not a challenge. I'm done." Or like, "I've already got this much money from you, dude. I'm done. I don't want you to get less money. I'm not enjoying this anymore." Like giving agency to the guy you keep losing to just be like, "Fuck this."
Was that something in like Red Dead 2?
Oh, probably.
I don't know. I can't remember. Where
that's a game I've never played.
You just suck, and they're just like, "I ain't playing this," or you win too much, and it's like, "I'm done."
I feel like it's something that was probably like Inscryption, right? The amount of times that you kind of went through that first phase of Inscryption, and that character having the agency to be like, "Hey, you're back."
Yes, there was probably some dialogue written in that. Be like,
"God, that game is good.
You suck."
I actually haven't gone back to it because I know
the endless mode.
Yeah, well, the problem is, I mean, playing the endless mode on like the first zone, whatever you want to call it, might be fun. But like, it was such a unique experience, and then like the shifts of that game, plot wise, that were totally gameplay affecting, won't be there because I'm playing the mode where they aren't there, or it will not hit well the second time around. Like, I have no urge to optimize my level, like, Zone 2 deck. But I got through, that's what mattered. I beat the right things.
Oh, you like Zone 2?
No, I'm just saying as an example of if I was replaying the game. Yeah. Specifically, Zone 2, I think, would be, because I know it's not the final zone. It's based on collection, right? And it's like, well, my collection at the end of the day doesn't matter because I'm going to teleport away from this zone forever. That like... Zone 2 is kind of just like a dead thing to me, even though I literally play Magic the Gathering once a week in person, in paper, and using my collection of cards. You would think that'd be my favorite, but because of the way it fits in the game, I don't really have an urge to replay the game generally, but definitely not that bit, because it's based on building a collection that I know I won't interact with that long because I'm going to leave that world. Because Zone 3 exists.
It's for sure my least favourite section.
Yeah, I also think
it was marked by 2 great ones. Like, that is the perfect place for that.
Yeah, no, I think it's well placed in the game, and especially the first time around, you're like,
it's like a what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just don't think
so it worked well as
plays
that,
well.
yeah.
I don't think I would enjoy being there the second time around.
No, same. Yeah. I really enjoyed the last one though. That was very good as well. But yes, the first one is just very much yes. Why is this not a card game?
Yeah.
You know. What a game that was. Was that 2019?
I was like, I don't even want to know how many.
No, 2020.
It must have been
2021.
I was living in Bristol.
Okay.
I know that much.
2021. Yeah,
2021.
that was my favorite game of that year.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was so good.
I do. I just got onto the Steam page, and I do like how we're talking about it in terms of the phases and things like that. But ultimately, all of the marketing, all of the
it's all on
Steam is just for the initial kind of.
Yes, yes, it was.
Game.
And I was interested in that already because it was like I love Pony Island.
Yeah, and it's got that kind of like
out.
it's got that Slay the Spire kind of progression to it, or at least that's kind of what it looks like, and then it adds in the element of
weird stuff.
What's that other game? Hand of Fate, where you were playing again a card game that was sat opposite a character who was dealing these cards and that kind of thing. So it brought in a few different kind of elements into that to be like, oh, this looks really cool. And then it was suddenly just like, hi. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
And to bring it back to Caravan Sand Witch, that game's not going to do this for you. It's not individual. But
it doesn't need to.
It doesn't need to be. Absolutely. It's a completely different kind of game. If you enjoy an explorative adventure game with a really, at least for me, a compelling kind of narrative. I very much am sat in that position. Anything that is kind of family related, father-daughter kind of relationships and things like that as well, very much hit me in the right kind of way. I say at this point in my life. So it's got enough sci-fi to it as well that it kept me intrigued. It's got enough kind of corporate bullshit that I'm kind of like, politically cool as well. So it just kind of it's the sweet spot for me for a very short adventure game. I can't say how many hours I played. I might be able to actually. I can see on the PlayStation app because I was playing on PS5.
Oh, right.
So I will do that very shortly.
Oh, that's why you're so upset you couldn't get that platinum. I see. I thought you were playing on.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't do in that game to get the platinum, which I could potentially go. I played 8 hours, so I finished it within about 8 hours.
Oh, that's a nice chunk of time. Yeah.
PlayStation doesn't give me much more than just 8 hours on how much I played it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's a good little narrative adventure.
Yeah. So, that's how I do about it. It's on my wish list, though.
Nice.
That's good.
www.outoflives.net